Alright, it's finally time to talk about the Deathspell Omega discography. This one has taken weeks and is absolutely the hardest discography I've had to rank. Because for the most part, this discography for like the longest time could just be considered horrors beyond my comprehension. But I've finally got a ranking for y'all and it's time to say which one's the best. The initial disclaimer for this one is that I just really didn't like this band for a long time. This band took a lot getting used to and I've listened to my fair share of weird fucking music. And if there's two albums that still really didn't click, this one, The Furnaces of Palingenesia, is one of them. I have zero interest in this record. I listened to it quite a few times and it never once grabbed me in any of the ways that the other records did. I don't really know whether it's like a matter of I need to listen to it even more for it to grab me, because I'm intrigued by the dissonance that this album offers and the distinctly heavy approach they take to their modern output. But I also found that this album meandered quite a lot, didn't really do anything different to any of the other albums, and yeah, just wasn't really the most memorable listen for me. And similar thoughts and feelings apply to The Long Defeat, their most recent album. This one only gets a place above the last record because of the first track I think is a great song. Really reminds me of like the Downtime from The Satanist by Behemoth. But then that's its biggest problem, is that this album feels very repetitive to me. Like those melodies that are used that kind of mirror The Satanist from Behemoth, they're used within every single track. And it just got really old for me. It didn't really feel like much was changing. It didn't feel like there was much movement. But again, I might just need even more time with this record. I didn't feel much for these two records. I didn't like them very much. Let's move on. Fast is a strange fucking album. My opinion of it has been absolutely all over the place since I first listened to it. Initial listening had me confused and intrigued, but also relatively engaged. Like, this is a very focused record, and it's very cinematic and theatrical, and I can see this record having a very dedicated group of fans saying it's the best. And I mean, I definitely grew to love like the variants in black metal aggression and ambient downtime, but this band was really clicking with the albums above it for me, and this one just kind of drifted away from me. Not to say it's bad, I think it's extremely well made. I just clicked with the other ones more. There's no other way really to put it with this band. Like, the stuff either clicks or it doesn't, and at first I was kind of forcing myself to like it, and when I finally got it, I still didn't appreciate this album as much as the ones that come above. Next up is Infernal Battles, and well, really, this and the other pure black metal album could be swapped out. Like, they both exist in the same area for me. These records might just be black metal, and they don't really have like the technical kinks of the later discography, but they are really fucking good black metal records. There's little teasers of some of the progression and technicality that will come later down the line, and I really appreciate that. Because this genre, if it's got like absolutely no qualities to it, it can get very monotonous and very samey. But I love the subtle tempo changes, and the riffing's just really on point for black metal. I don't really know which one I'd choose if I had to, choose. They're very similar to me. But probably the second record, Inquisitors of Satan, as this one just kind of feels like everything's a bit riffier, everything's just a bit more like focused, a bit sharper. C Monumentum's insane. This record really nails the balance between old school black metal aggression and the fucking avant-garde weirdness that would come. And I love how there's elements of both of those things within this record. This one's super engaging. I love the structure of the track listing with all the prayer songs. This wasn't the album where it finally clicked upon all the re-listens, but when I did finally come back after the click-in, I thoroughly enjoyed this record. I will say it's fucking way too long. I think a long format is good for this style of music, but even for this style of music, this is like, what, an hour, 17 minutes? I don't normally make it through the whole record. I normally do about 75% of it before I'm either at my destination or I'm done with the record. But it is thoroughly engaging. When it comes to doing all the re-listens to finally understand this band, this is the one where it actually did click. And when it finally clicked, I was just thinking, man, actually, you know what? This album's a fucking masterpiece. It's so good. And out of all the tracks to finally do it for me, it was the Epiclesis tracks, following into the very final track. I think I realised the way to enjoy this at first was not to try and keep track of everything that's going on, but to just get lost in it. Just let the music take you on a journey, let it sit as a backdrop. Fuck, I found myself daydreaming so much through this record. When I finally got to my job, my colleagues were like, oh, have you got the parts, have you got this? And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. Because my brain was still here in this record. It just completely took over my head, and I think that's when it finally clicked. Paracletus is fucking insane. It's the sort of thing where you just listen to it in a dark room and just let it overtake your neurons. And then I discovered the Synarchy of Molten Bones. Admittedly, I never actually thought this was a full length. It says it's an EP on Spotify, but I was going by the Wikipedia, and it said it was a full length. And good, because I want to talk about it. This is by far my favourite. I fucking love this record. This record's so good. This is by far one of the most aggressive works they've done, especially in the avant-garde era of this band. Incredible mix of fucking alien weirdness, black metal aggression, riffing. And when you get your head around the riffing, it's just so, like, addictive. Every time you re-listen to the riffs, you find something new. You find something new to enjoy. Particularly the first song to me, the title track, I've had it on repeat since I finally, like, loved this band. I just think this record is a masterclass in ambience, it's a masterclass in atmosphere, and finally, after all these re-listens and all of this waiting to get this fucking discography out, this takes my top spot. But honestly, guys, I think Deathspell Omega is going to be one of those bands where I revisit the whole discography and I do a part 2 to this video, because I think this whole ranking's going to change.